Today we're going to talk about the CyberPower 550 UPS. We're going to go over how to unbox the UPS and how to set the UPS up. We'll go over each of the various components of the UPS to make sure that you understand how they work and how to connect devices to the UPS. Okay, let's start with the unboxing of the UPS. I'm going to open up the UPS, and as we take a look on the side, we have a power cord, and then we have styrofoam. Pull that through. Pull the UPS out. Inside your box you should have a cable. This is a USB cable that we will go over setting up with your computer so it can shut down the computer properly. And you also have some paperwork or like a little manual that also explains how to use a UPS. All right, so let's put this over here. It's out the way, and let's take the bag off. All right, so when we take a look at the UPS here, the UPS has got a number of areas that you need to become familiar with. I want to start with the side first, and there's a button here that says Site Wiring Fault. This is very, very important, and you should pay attention to this as soon as you plug in your UPS. If you have any kind of electrical issues, that light will come on and let you know there's a problem. At that point, I would just stop the process completely and have an electrician come in and take a look at the wiring in your home. It's possible you have a grounding issue or some other problem, and that's what this indicator is about. USB port on the side. We're going to go over how to connect the USB cable and how that then goes to your computer. On this side over here, there's a little pop-out fuse. It's basically an over voltage fuse. In the event that there is a large over voltage or surge coming through the system, it can blow that fuse in order to minimize the chance that you would end up having damage to your equipment. On the front of the unit, we have our power button. This is going to be important to understand this because you just don't hold the button in, tap it to come on. You're going to hold it for a couple seconds, you'll hear it beep, that's to turn it on. Do the same thing to turn it off. All right, you have two sets of outlets on the UPS. This side over here is labeled surge and battery. This side is labeled surge only. Very important to understand the differences between these two. The surge and battery side will provide power to your devices in the event that you have a blackout or loss of power. You cannot overload these outlets over here. This is really designed for, say, your computer and your monitor. Maybe you could even add in your ISP equipment such as a cable modem to this side over here, but don't plug in things like printers. They draw too much voltage, and if you do that, then if you do have a power loss, there may not be enough power coming from this unit to power all those devices. So my recommendation is just your computer and your monitor, or if you have an all-in-one, just plug that in on this side, which is the surge and battery, and on the other side you have just surge only. That's going to provide protection against surges coming through your system. So things like maybe you have a scanner or a printer, or maybe if you decide you put your ISP's equipment over here, you would get surge protection from this side. By the way, on the battery side, the way this works is that there is a battery on the inside of this unit and an inverter. That inverter uses the battery to convert it from the voltage coming off of the battery into 110 volts of electricity. It gives you a finite amount of time, usually about 5 minutes of runtime, so that you can then properly shut down your computer in the event of a power loss. If you set up the USB cable and connect it to your computer, then if you're not at your computer and you have a power loss, then the UPS will signal to the computer telling it that there is a power loss, and it will then shut down the computer properly. This will minimize the chance of damage to the operating system files or other types of files that are in use, and depending on the software, it can even save your documents, spreadsheets, things like that, so that when it does come back up, you will have access to those documents again. Putting in this cable, the shutdown cable, and configuring the computer is just as important as the UPS in itself, okay? So I really strongly recommend that you do that. We'll go over that in just a few minutes. The other thing I want to point out to you here is that the power cord is a 3-prong power cord. It needs that ground in order to protect your devices from surges and so forth. So don't convert this over from 3 prongs to 2 prongs, because it could end up creating problems and you may not get the protection that you think you're getting. All right, so let's go over how to connect the USB cable to your computer, and then how to configure the computer to work with the UPS. Okay, we've got the UPS now out. You need to plug it in, and the recommendation is that you let it charge for 8 hours before you use it. So if you haven't done so already, plug it into an outlet, let it run for 8 hours, or at least let it charge for 8 hours before we go through the next process. The next process is going to be that we're going to go out to the website, the CyberPower website, to download the CyberPower software. We'll put a link below to the actual site where you go to get this software. All right, so I'm on the CyberPower site now, and it says software here. This is a page where we'll download the software for our operating system, for the Windows or Mac or Linux, whatever you're using. Also, since this is going to be used, say, on a home computer, you will download the personal edition of the software. All right, so we'll scroll down. You'll notice it starts out with Power Panel Cloud, and we scroll down. It's got Power Panel Personal. That's what we're looking for. It also tells us that we're going to connect this through a USB or serial cable to the host computer. That's also another way of knowing that this is the software that we want, because we're going to connect this through the USB cable. When I scroll down just a little bit further, I can pick from either a Windows operating system, the Mac operating system, or Linux operating system, okay? So let's go ahead and click on the download button. In my case, I have a Windows computer here. I'm going to click on download. It's got a little warning that comes up saying that if you are reinstalling the software, or if you are upgrading the software, that you should get your settings from the installation that you have now before you move forward. And they recommend that you uninstall the old software before you put in the new software. Okay, at this point, I'm going to click on the section in the middle here. It says Power Panel 2.2.2 for Windows. Could be different depending on when you go there. It could be a newer version of the software. When we click on that, it's going to open up a little window here that's going to show that it's downloading the software. It's going to take a minute for that to download, and it's now there. Now I can click on Open File or Open Folder to get access to the file. So before we get going on this, what I'm going to do is go ahead and plug in the USB cable now, so at least it knows that the UPS is there when we go to install the software. Again, this cable will only fit one way on here. If it doesn't fit, just turn it until it does fit. The other end will plug into a USB port, free USB port on your computer. Plug that in, and now I'm going to go ahead and start this process of installing the software. So I'm opening the software, choosing that I want it in English, giving the system permission to load the software. Click Next. Do you accept the license agreement? Read through it to make sure you do accept it. Click on I accept the agreement if you do. Click Next. It's going to ask you where you want to put the software. We'll choose the defaults here. Click Next. It's asking if what we want to put this in as far as our group is concerned. Create a start menu item as well. We'll click OK there. Next, and it's going to go through the process of installing the software. Now, this may take a minute or so on your computer, and let it go through. We'll see if it will require a reboot when we're done. If not, then we'll launch the software and go right in to doing the configuration. This, again, is very important that you load the software so that you can get that shutdown capability in the event that, say, in the middle of the night and a storm comes through and your power goes out, or possibly it's in the, during the day and you're at work or away from your computer, then it will shut down properly. All right, so it says completing the power installation here. Setup is finished installing the CyberPower. Application may be launch by selecting the installed icon. So we click on Finish, and there's the panel here. Let's see if I can minimize some of these screens here to kind of help see what we have here. All right, so when we look at the software, we've got the home button here. It tells us the current status. It says it's on utility power, 118 volts. Power condition is normal. Remaining battery capacity is at 100%. It says it's fully charged. Remaining battery uptime, it says 810 minutes. I wouldn't count on that. Generally, give yourself about 5 to 10 minutes of runtime on this. Right now it's saying that there's only 0 watts of load, because I have nothing actually plugged into the UPS right now. As I plug things in, it will adjust that number, okay? And then it says hardware status is normal. We have also a summary report if we want to go in and take a look at that. Just gives us information about power conditions and so forth, last power events and so on, and the event logs if you want to see event logs of previous shutdowns, and you can go in and look. Or if you suspect that the system is shut down, you can go in and take a look at that. So if we look over on the side, basically we have the 3 blocks here telling us that we're on the AC utility. Battery capacity is at 100%, and estimated runtime says 812 minutes. So what would happen if we did unplug this? Let's take a look at that. Hey Joe, can you come unplug this for us real quick? Okay. All right, so we just unplugged the UPS, and you'll get an audible alarm letting you know that it's running off of the UPS, or right now the power is not coming in from the wall. And if we take a look at the power panel here, it actually tells us that it's running on the battery. Output voltage is 120 volts. Power condition says there's a power outage. Remaining battery capacity 100%, and so forth. So again, you hear that beep. The faster that beep gets, that means the battery's running down more so. So in other words, right now it's a long, between each beep is fairly long, and as that beep goes quicker and quicker, that means we have less and less battery life left on the unit. And if you were to sit here and watch this, again, I have no load on this, eventually you'll see that the numbers will go down. So that's basically it on the actual installation of the software. All right, let's go back up to the top here and we'll look at the energy reporting. Again, if we want to get some information on that, we can click on the tab at the top. Configuration over here. It says configure your UPS. It says you can configure the settings of power panel to ensure optimum performance of the UPS. We can go in and says decide what time the computer should be shut down and restart. So if we click on this, we can actually set this up to be able to do manual shutdowns and restarts of the computer if that's what you're interested in. All right, let's go back over to notifications. We can click on notifications. It says enable power panel notification sounds, enable audible alarms at all times if we want to hear that from the UPS, as we just did a moment ago. Power problems, activate. If it does activate, we can say yes here. Service provider, you actually put down your email provider, put in your sender's name and your receiver's email address here. You can click on the test button to make sure that it actually works, and click on apply. That way you can get a notification in the event of a power problem. Under runtime, it says keep the computer running. This is really kind of one of those important areas here. It says shut down this computer when the remaining battery runtime is only 5 minutes. And it says use this option to extend operating time while on battery power. Now, if we go in here and look at this, we get 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7, 8, 10, 9, 10. 5 is a default, generally should work for you. It doesn't go really much lower than 5 because you're not sure really from a power draw scenario. You don't know if that number is really going to be truly accurate, so they don't let you go really anything less than 5 minutes. If you want to preserve battery power, it says shut down the computer after the UPS runs on battery power 4. Now here's another interesting one. So if I were to go to this option, I can say that if we end up going on battery power, that after being on battery power for say 2 minutes, go ahead and shut down the computer. The first option basically is reading the level of the battery and says, okay, you only have 5 minutes left, we're going to go ahead and shut down your computer. The second option says, okay, 2 minutes left, or 2 minutes into the power failure, go ahead and shut it down. Or 3 minutes into the power failure, shut it down. This way you can preserve the battery a little bit longer. Otherwise, it's just going to run until the battery is exhausted. Pick whichever one you want. Most people use the first one, which is keep the computer running, and then for 5 minutes is fine. Voltage. It says UPS will intervene when the AC utility voltage goes below 96 volts. You can change that. So if you want to try to adjust that threshold a little bit, say maybe you want it a little bit more sensitive, then you could say, okay, let's wait until it goes down below 100 volts. Or if you want it less sensitive, maybe you go up to 91 volts, right? Meaning that it's really got to drop way down before that UPS intervenes. Same thing on the other side, with the voltage gets too high. It says at 140, which is the default, it will kick in. If you want to make it more or less sensitive, again, go through and adjust that. Self-test, if you want to do a quick self-test, initiate a self-test, you click on this, you can hear that it's actually simulating a power failure over here. And you hear the little beep letting you know that it's actually working, which is good. And it's going to run through this little test here. Yep, now it just popped back on, and it should finish up the self-test here in just a second. We'll let it cycle through that real quick, and we're done. So I recommend that you periodically do a self-test, at least once a quarter. Notice it tells you that it's passed. If it had a problem, it would tell you there's a problem. Maybe there's an issue with the inverter on the inside, or the battery itself. Over time, that battery will wear out, and you may have to replace the battery. So run that, at least a couple of times a year. I do it more often on mine, just to make sure that the battery is still in good shape. And the last tab says Advanced, and we get to choose the shutdown type. So it says you can specify the manner in which the computer is shut down. Shutdown type is shutdown or hibernation. So let's talk about the difference between the two. Shutdown just literally shuts everything off. Hibernation actually takes your working environment, saves it into what's called a hibernation file, and then shuts down the system. From there, when the power is restored, the operating system will see the hibernation file, read the contents of that, everything that you had open during that time, it reopens it and brings it all back up on the screen. At one time, that was the only option I'd recommend, is just use the hibernation component. This way, if you're working on a document or something, you make sure that it comes right back up to where you left off. But some look at that as a possible security problem, where if someone steals your hibernation file, they can then look and see what you were working on, and that could be a security risk for you. So up to you, hibernation or shutdown, either one. And if you have any questions, there's always a question mark at the top that you can click on. It will then open up your default browser and then take you out to the website to be able to see it will explain that to you. Okay? All right. Minimize this screen here. So that's pretty much it. That gives you how to plug devices into the unit. We've gone over how to find the software, how to load the software, go through the configuration sections of the menu so that you can properly configure how you want this shutdown software to work with the UPS. Please, if you got to get that cable connected. You need to load this software, because this is just so important to make sure that in the event of a power loss, that it does save your computer as far as the potential of losing files or data or damaging the operating system. So get that set up. The software is free. The cable and all they put in the box now is free. You used to have to, in many cases, order that separately. It's now included. Strongly recommend that you get that set up. All right. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, you can give us a call at 843-556-4720.